Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're about to start round number 3 of our first week of the PSS 6. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined in the booth by special guest Aaron Dix. How's it going, Aaron?
It's pretty good.
Yes,
Good to see you.
I see. I think people are they might be disappointed because it's not Flint, but they should be very excited that it is you. So it's very tough
And
shoes to fill.
It's okay to be disappointed.
Yes, it's tough to be Flint, but I'll take an Aaron when I don't have a Flint. So, yeah. So I'm happy to have you in the booth. We have a match between McLean Denny up against Mike Harris. McLean has brought Hermit Fab. He's brought Mono Black Contamination and then Blue White Flippy, which is kind of like a blue white tempo, kind of like a white weenie with some blue cards, blue disruption. Which I know McLean has played. I think he played it in the Premodern Super League, and so something that he's familiar with. And then Mike Harris is playing traditional full English breakfast, so he's not playing the hermit part. He has blue white stifle knot and then sly. So Mike banned the blue white flippy list. He said, "I hate playing against that deck," so he just doesn't want to play against it. So I don't know if it maybe has to do with the matchup. Maybe it's just he just doesn't enjoy playing against it. Just we're not seeing blue white flippy tonight. And then McLean banned the sly list from Mike. So do you know what the players are playing?
I don't know.
Do you want to make a prediction?
I mean, given who we've got here, given that there are 2 members of the Cabal, I want to see some Feb on Feb gameplay here.
Okay. Yep. So we'll see if that's what's in store for us. So we'll jump down and we'll look at the decks. First up, we have for McLean. He is playing the Mono Black Contamination list. So this is a deck that I had seen popped up a little bit. I know Alvaro had played it, but I don't know. I haven't played against it. I'm not sure how it will perform, and we'll see. So I guess the core of the deck, if it's just 2 cards, Nether Spirit and Contamination. The Nether Spirit is if it's the only creature in your graveyard, it comes back right into play. Contamination is an enchantment that lands only tap for black, and you have to sacrifice a creature every turn or it will go away. So those 2 in combination will keep the contamination going. And then it's supplemented by a bunch of discard removal, and then I guess the other kind of key card is Zombie Infestation, which is a nice way where like you can discard another spirit and then it'll come back into play. So it's kind of like a little discounted zombie, but beyond that, it's kind of like a black control prison deck.
Yeah, some early control and disruption.
Yeah, I guess the idea is most decks can't operate with only black mana, or
that's a problem of pre-modern, right?
Yeah, I guess if you have some Mox Diamonds or maybe some like Llanowar Elves, then maybe you can function. But
who uses black mana? Oh,
yeah. But it's a lot of disruption, and then just trying to assemble the combo kind of naturally. Like there's, I guess, a couple of copies of Tainted Pact that can kind of help, but it's not like there's a lot of Skeletal Scrying will help you draw some extra cards, but mostly it's just kind of being disruptive until it kind of can assemble that. And the mana base, I guess I'll also note, there's Mishra's Factory, Russian Imports, and Wastelands. While it is a mono black deck, it's got a lot of colorless lands that do stuff. So trying to slow down your opponent even more.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see this deck in action. It will be up against Mike Harris's Full English Breakfast.
Oh,
so Mike did say something. He said, I'm going to play Full English Breakfast, and I'm going to hope that just for the show that we're going to have McLean playing Hermit Fab and Mike playing Full English Breakfast for the storyline. So Mike did his part. McLean apparently thought that matchups maybe be favored in a different way. So
there's some strategy there too. I mean, if there's anybody I don't want to play any Hermit list or any Feb list against, it's these 2 guys.
Sure.
Robin, You don't want to play it against the Masters.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Full English Breakfast, it comes from Boris Shapeshifter, and there's a main combo. I guess there's really only one combo. There used to be Acroma and Phage, but that's been taken out, and it just has the Vorash Shapeshifter, Phyrexian Devourer, Triskelion.
Right.
And so basically you get survival into play, and if you can then get the combination of Vorash Shapeshifter, and then the Devourer and the Triskelion, you can exile cards and then turn it into Triskelion and shoot your opponent. But the rest of the deck is supplemented by mana and then some slight disruptive cards. I will say Mike has 2 copies of Squee, and then he's kind of got like the techie cards that are a lot of times in the sideboard that are in the main. So like Gitu Slinger, a Monk Realist, like those cards are all in the main. So that was, I guess, the biggest difference. And I'm interested to talk to Mike because I know he had been playing the Hermit Febulist, which has the Hermit Druid. But it's interesting that he opted to just play the traditional Full English Breakfast. So I thought for most people I've talked about, they preferred having both the combos. But it'll be interesting to see why Mike thought that there was an advantage of just going straight Full English Breakfast. So,
do his lands get to be better too?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah, that is the thing. I guess if you're expecting a lot of slide, then maybe your matchup's a little bit better.
Right.
Maybe that is a draw. But is there anything else you want to say about Feb before we jump down to the match?
No, I'm so excited to see these two play.
All right, let's kick it off. If you want to let our players know we can begin, we will start things off.
I am not in chat.
Oh, okay. Then I will let them know as I reset the life titles. Yes.
Normally I could.
Yes. All right. I will flip around McLean's display, and we'll kick things off. All right. So, who's on the play here? Who on the die roll? Do you remember?
I actually didn't see
I would say I was focused on other things. I don't remember what they said, so we will figure it out. Looks like McLean is going to kick things off with the Bloodstained Mire. I guess that is telling. I think Mike knows all the deck lists, so yeah, that just indicates what deck he's on at this point.
Oh man, that beautiful city.
And then he gets to play the Cabal Therapy because he does know what deck his opponent's playing. He does.
Yep.
I guess you're either naming a Zombie Infestation or Contamination, I think.
I think you just name Contamination. You don't want to deal with it.
There could be certain situations if you have like a really fast hand that like certain removal spells might be the problem, but it looks like Contamination is the card named, and it is a card that's hit. So Smother, Innocent Blood, Bloodstained Mire, Wasteland, and Rishenport. We did talk about the disruptive elements in the lands of Rishenport and Wasteland. There are a lot of targets for Wasteland in my deck. So
the reason I think you name the Contamination there is the disruption is so redundant in the deck, whereas there's just 4 copies of Contamination.
Sure.
And he's got no way to get it back.
All right, so McLean will get a swamp, or maybe it's a snow-covered swamp. I'm not sure. He does have a split between the two because of the card Tainted Pact. So it's not just for show. Then he's going to port Mike. Ooh, it's just always a little icing.
City of Brass.
Yeah, it's just always nice when you get to Richard and port someone with the City of Brass.
Feels good every time.
Yeah. Mike then has a forest, but then is passing the turn after that. That land, I have to guess it is like the Chinese 5th edition or whatever, the one that Mike has talked about on the podcast that he collects. Because I don't recognize
Chinese Portal, right?
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Back to McLean's turn. He has the Wasteland and gets rid of the city, so no tapping for damage. He's just gonna port the forest instead. All right, so more kind of the draw goes. We have a Mishra's Factory that's added to the table, but right now McLean's doing a good job of disrupting the mana. I mean, the Full English Breakfast does have kind of a shaky mana base. I mean, you're casting like all these 3 colors worth of cards, and some of them are mana intensive. I mean, like you don't always cast the Volrash Shapeshifter because a lot of times you unearth it, but still, like your City of Brass getting blown up. Now you have Forest. Yeah, you might have some mana troubles.
Critically, at least he's got a lot of green mana to activate Survival.
Yep. I mean, I think all his lands might tap for green. But it's nice that like you have pain-free ways of doing it too.
Mhm.
All right, so we're on McLean's turn. I guess it's kind of interesting because at some point, like, there's reasons why you don't even want to play lands from your hand. If like zombie infestation comes into play, that you might rather have that card in your hand. So even like the
Sure.
micro decisions that is just kind of a given that you usually like, yep, I untap, I draw, I play a land, and now you start thinking about what you're gonna do. With McLean's deck, you might want to break that heuristic that you might want to keep a land in your hand because of zombie infestation.
That's another one of those decks where it's not all cut and dry. You're making so many decisions.
Yeah, and there's certainly been times that I've played like a zombie infestation list, and I'm like, oh, I had a game plan, and then I kind of thought about the deck, like the game, and I'm like, actually, if I would have like gone all in, and then the game would have been a lot different, and I might have had a better chance of winning.
Oh, so he says take 2, tap a forest, and he's going to activate survival.
Okay.
If I'm going to tap it, I'm going to tap it.
So
To do something with it.
Vora's Shifter is going to get discarded.
A lot of cool altars on Mike's side, I gotta say.
Yeah, so it was because Robin's doing the same thing too, right? I think is like collecting the full English breakfast, but is like altering it out. I think that's Robin too. I don't know. Maybe all the full English breakfast players are just gonna just tech out their deck and do that. Yeah, Chad has asked, does that mean he has Unearth? Yeah, Mike does have 4 copies of Unearth in his list.
Right.
That was one of the evolutions that originally, like the Full English Breakfast decks, like a long time ago, used to play 4 Vorash Shapeshifters. But then they kind of got to the point of like, let's just play 2 of these and just play Unearth because it's almost easier to cast, or like because you want a survival anyways. So you pretty much don't do anything without it, and so you it's easier to get the Vorash Shapeshifter and play with Unearth than actually casting it.
I mean, I'd be pretty tempted to, you know, try to bait some of this removal. Go get a birds that can tap for green mana.
I mean
Discard this.
yeah.
Discard the squee to go get a birds and
The
another birds.
problem is you're facing against Smother and Innocent Blood already.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you kind of got to work through that anyways.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think if there's a better creature that would like sit in play and have a benefit of like being a decoy for those sack effects.
Oh boy. I don't know what he named here, but another contamination in hand.
Yeah, it's technically not scary yet, but as soon as
So he did get that smother.
Nether Spirit would come into play, then it would be problematic. It's funny that I guess Mike, in theory, if he had only black mana, he could discard to hand size and then unearth a creature. But I guess I'm trying to think what creature would be formidable enough that would be able to win from that position. I don't think there's anything.
I do. I do like the reanimate the shifter.
Oh, I guess then you could reanimate a shifter and then use its ability to like discard a big creature. So that would be a very weird way to do.
It'd be fun. I like that. I love Premodern.
Yeah. I've seen crazier things.
Yeah. Like activating Kamal to Akroma's Vengeance.
Yeah.
Blowing up all your opponent's lands.
All right, so birds does come down.
Just dares him to innocent blood next turn. How bad do you care?
Well, you also have the option to use your own Cabal therapy. in this spot. Like that might be something that Mike's thinking about. I don't know if we're still on Mike's turn. Also, I want to note like the reanimate that's in like McLean's deck. So I guess it's just the option of kind of like I guess it'll be interesting to know like why that like what is the role of that card? Is it just because like sometimes you reanimate your opponent's creatures, sometimes your opponent like makes a play that they like kill another spirit at end of, no, I guess that still wouldn't work. I was gonna say kill it at end of turn. Um but because reanimate's sorcery. Yeah, it seems kind of like an interesting card because there's only 4 creatures in the deck.
Yeah, so he does do it. Squee up another birds.
Yeah. Just keep doing it. See, people talk about how broken Survival of the Fittest is. I don't know. This seems pretty fair here.
It's just at this point, it's just a value engine. You know, you've got these 1-for-1 trades that you keep making, but Squee comes back every turn. I do like that play.
Gabe's talk about stealing a shapeshifter. I guess it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it denies the ability. The problem is like Mike has a survival, so
He's got a survival. You could just go get another one.
Yeah, I guess there only is one more copy, and McLean does know that there's only 2. It'd be even funnier if he reanimated a Squee. It's like
that'd be really fun.
And then you just do your best to not have it die, because then it would end up going back to Mike's hand.
Yeah, I do. Again, grab a bird.
Comical Flop says, I've seen animate dead on opponent's squeeze. All right. Then it can't even attack. It's just an 0-1. Chat says there's no reason not to reanimate the shifter. If you draw Innocent Blood, that's a reason not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a... Okay, so he goes after... He gets the other contamination. So we've got 2 contaminations down.
Okay, so I mean, it's funny how many turns this survival's been in play, and Mike has just done being the most fair you could be, I guess.
Right.
I should update the life total for Mike. He's at 12.
Yep.
So we've seen him get 2 birds. What other cards has he gotten with? Oh, now he just got a Palancron.
Yep.
This is the point where he might want to go for it. So McLean's gonna upkeep, tap the city. Mike's gonna float a green. First, he's gonna discard a Squee, it looks like. Because so if you have, oh no, the Squee's coming back. Okay. Discards a Palancron. So if you get Shapeshifter and have Unearth, I guess you don't need to have Unearth because you can you have blue with the birds and the gemstone mine.
Yep.
That
True.
would
Yep.
untap your lands. He's getting
Oh,
getting Devour.
so he's
If
clearly
Mike is passing the turn, do you think McLean will reanimate the
a
Palinchron?
Palindrome.
I don't know.
I would.
That seems pretty cool.
Yeah, you suddenly got pressure.
I mean, it's a hefty 7 life,
I'll take
but
it.
I don't know. You get a 4/5, and like you get all your mana back. Does he? So he's tapping all the mana. He's tapping 4 mana. But he has a shapeshifter in hand,
Shapeshifter.
which is a Palinchron. So there's no response from McLean. I guess his only thing would be, did he have copies of Vendetta? I think that might be the only instant speed for 1 mana. All right, so this Palinchron, in quotes, which is shapeshifter.
So
Okay.
yeah, now
He's going to flashback the Cabal Therapy with the Birds of Paradise. That does make the shapeshifter into a birds temporarily, but he's going to make sure that I guess you would just name Vendetta is the only thing I could think of. But I mean I think that would already been a cast. But Mike knows the way is clear. He's going to discard the Devourer to go get Triskelion. Then he's going to activate it. And
McLean knows how this works.
yeah. So one thing that we could talk about. So we talked about that early Wasteland. And if like McLean keeps a Wasteland in play, then I think it makes all these interactions a lot harder for Mike, because you could suddenly like have a Wasteland
a land sitting on top of
that can like change the shapeshifter into not being a creature.
Yeah.
And so we'll see if maybe that becomes part of McLean's game plan, is to have a Wasteland and then not activate it and use it. And like that threat of activation might change how Mike plays.
Right.
All right, so first game goes to Mike Harris in full English breakfast. After after a lot of disruption from McLean, but also a lot of turns of activating survival, Mike was able to put together a win. So let's jump over and look at the sideboards. Yep. First up, I have the full English breakfast list. So there are 3 Hydroblast, 1 Duress, 1 Meddling Mage, 1 Swords of Plowshares, 1 Ray of Revelation, 1 Withered Wretch, 2 Naturalize, 2 Smother, 2 Tasabo's Web, and 1 Crater Hellion. So there are a lot of cards I could look at. I mean, Duress has a place, Meddling Mage has a place. I don't think so, because like a lot of the removal is really redundant. Swords of Plowshares has a place. Ray of Revelation seems good. Withered Wretch is a possibility. Naturalized is a possibility. Tasabo's Web, because there is Rishan Imports and Wastelands and Mishra's Factories. I mean, I think that Tasabo's Web is more thinking of like the Red-Green Oath deck, but I think this is a list where you might bring it in. The question is like, how many cards are you able to take out? That's the part I don't know.
I mean, Tasabo's Web feels good. He's got a lot of lands that it turns off, and you stop getting this mana denial strategy with the ports and wastelands. I mean, you'll still deal with wastelands, but you're never going to have to worry about a wasteland that has tapped for mana. So yeah, I don't know. I think for me,
there's 4 copies of Intuition. I don't know if that's a card that gets cut because you're not like looking to turbo out as much because you think there's some amount of disruption from McLean. So maybe that's a card that gets cut. I don't know.
I don't even remember what Gitu Slinger does.
It's a 3-mana 2/2 with Echo, and it deals 2 damage to a creature in play when it comes to play.
Yeah, I think you've got some stuff that you could take out happily.
Yeah, that one should come out because like while it could get rid of a zombie token, it just is probably not worth
you've got some of these survival package cards that could come out, and I think the intuitions could get trimmed.
Yeah, Uktapia or anything. I guess there's not. I don't think. I guess it depends on the sideboard.
It would depend on the sideboard.
Yeah.
But I think I really want duress, meddling mage, swords, uh, and some amount of naturalizer Sabo's web that I can
Okay.
fit in.
All right, we'll take a peek at McLean's list, and we'll see if we can figure out what he's going to do. So there's 2 copies of Coffin Purge. Ooh, that's exciting, actually.
Yeah,
Two Engineered Plague, 3 Null
it's
Rod,
fun.
a Diabolic Edict, 3 Dystopia, a Sickening Dreams, 2 Perish, and a Snuff Out. Snuff Out, Coffin Purge.
Null rod.
Oh yeah, shuts down the
Null rod.
yeah.
Give me all the null rods,
The
please.
the one problem about Null Rod though is it only stops the win condition. And so like let's say if you have an active survival, and so it might be a reason to keep in like the Octavia orangutan. So basically like it doesn't do
Right,
anything, but like it only prevents him from winning. But in theory, Mike should be able to win even through a null rod.
okay,
But, I talked about maybe taking the Octavia orangutan out. So I don't know, but
exactly.
uh,
Depends on how deep you think the 3D chess match is going. Well, he thinks that I think that he won't.
huh?
No, I'm bringing in null rod.
Alvaro
Do
said
some
that I would
do
remove
something about it.
Alvaro says I would remove contamination and just play the control role. That's uh interesting. And
I don't know if it's wrong. I want all the uh, engineered plagues, right? I want the null rod.
yeah, I mean plague is good against the combo. It could take out Birds of Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could
I I mean half of the sideboard I want. So
I
I'm
there chat's already saying that 2 people have said you could bring in 15
right.
cards, yeah.
Yeah,
So, well, it'll
I'd
be
agree.
definitely interesting to see McLean if how he sideboards in this game and if it changes in game 3 because that could also be something that like you're either adjusting based on what Mike's doing or you either learn certain new information or you're just trying to kind of change your
I think
deck each time.
I think you screw it. Take out Tainted Pact. It doesn't hit often enough here. Like just give me the cards I want. Just
Yeah.
just fill my deck full of hate. Take out Tainted Pact. Take out I might take out Contamination. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Duress might be a card you take out. I mean, survival is obviously super important to the deck strategy, but like the games are going to go long, and they're eventually going to draw survival. I feel like.
I I agree, Rich. I think it gets worse after boarding. I think I'm stripping Tainted Pact. I'm stripping uh, Contamination, and I'm just going as much control as I can get my hands on. I'm taking out the Reanimate too. I don't want sorcery speed. I'd rather have the rest of the
Sure.
sideboard.
It's funny how just like Coffin Purge, just like as a card, is like actually like something you're excited about. I don't know. It's just funny, like, and it's like doing a fair thing. I don't know. When
Yeah, no,
I
it's good
because
here.
Coffin Purge has been played in McLean's list, usually in the Hermit Feb, but it's usually to manipulate the top card of your deck because of shapeshifter stuff. But yeah,
Yep, I'm all about this plan. Just we're mid range now.
all right, we'll jump back down to the match. It looks like the players are shuffling up. We're going to
Yeah,
start game 2, where McLean will be on the play again, and he's down a game with his mono black contamination against Mike Harris's full English breakfast. Just traditional full English breakfast. I guess this is probably a matchup where the Hermit Druid probably doesn't help you that much. Like if Mike were playing Hermit Feb. Maybe that's not true.
I don't know. I'd love to win quick here. I don't want this to stretch out. I think that's my magic strategy in a nutshell, though. I'd like to win quick here.
Yeah. All right. I think McLean is mulliganing. I don't know if he
Yeah,
drew an opening hand. I don't know if there's any particular cards that he's looking for. I'm trying to think. It really just depends on how he's configured his deck. I think is a huge factor.
Oof. He's either super unlucky or he's going for something specific.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what card he'd be searching for. Because I mean, like the cards were good, but I felt like they were all pretty even in terms of their power level. I didn't think like there was one card that like, hey, this is the one card I want to see.
No, I think he's trying to have some sort of a game plan early disruption. If I don't have the thing that answers, if I don't have the, you know, cabal therapy, naturalize, duress, something, I don't want it. I gotta slow you down.
Yeah, Rich has pointed out maybe McLean isn't on the mid range plan. Maybe he's trying to be a little bit more combo centric. It's possible too, especially when you're on the
Potentially.
play that like you probably only need to kill a birds and then you might be able to lock them out.
Keep it in, and then it's the card that you the card that you tuck on your mull. Ouch.
McLean's gonna debate, I think, which cards put in the bottom. A lot of times, like I mean, you're really dictating kind of like how the game you think it's going to play out when you're putting a
Right.
couple cards on the bottom because you're like, all right, obviously like these cards are good or whatever, they're in my deck, but like you're saying, I think the game is going to go in this direction and I don't need this in this moment, or I'm going to say like because I'm giving up some amount of resources, yeah, maybe like you are putting a card like contamination, which obviously you want to draw, but maybe it's just because you need the other cards to stay alive, and then you're going to hope that you draw into one of the other contaminations. So interesting choices that you always have to make when you mulligan.
This one's a tough one, apparently. He finally got the good hand, but he has to get rid of 3 of them.
So Mike puts a card on the bottom.
Yep.
Then
Oh, he's getting rid of
yeah, I think McLean only has to
2.
put 2 on the
Okay,
bottom.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still painful, but yes, especially since he's on the play. All right, but now we'll kick things off. So 5 cards for McLean, 6 cards for Mike. Mishra's Factory is the first turn. Mike will just play a forest and then pass. And so
Cabal therapy. Come on.
I
Oh,
mean,
unmask.
ooh. I mean that's a painful card after you've mulligan already.
Yeah. But he had to do something. Yeah, he knew the survival was coming. So I feel like if you don't get hit with a first turn hand disruption, you just have to assume there's a survival there. He kept the hand. It's either got the disruption or the early jam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got to sell out there to get it.
All right, so Mike is going to cast a Mesmeric Fiend, which is going to reveal another spirit.
Ouch.
The perfect place for another spirit from Mike's perspective. It's not in the graveyard; it's exiled. So, unfortunately, that Mesmeric Fiend like won't be able to do a lot of attacking because of the Mishra's Factories. I guess if McLean's attacking, then
Yeah, it'll get in there for one.
all right.
Strip you off your lands.
So McLean does go aggressive with the Wasteland and takes out the Llanowar Wastes.
And does he miss a land drop?
I think
If he
so.
misses a land drop, where's that port when you want it?
It's funny that McLean has only played colorless land so far. There's 2 Mishra's Factory and then has he's still got to cast a black spell. So
Yeah, exactly.
that might have been the interesting
I think
dynamic of
I
like
think we were I think we were dead on though. He was looking for that hand disruption.
Sure.
He had to have something.
But his mulligan might have been like, what if the card he put on the bottom was a swamp?
Well, on turn 5, he answers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That is a zombie infestation. I guess Mike having a wall of roots is also pretty good for him. It lines up really well against the Mishra's Factory and gives you another mana. So.
Yep. All right. He's back where he wants to be on lands. This is a game.
I mean, if they're playing draw go, especially if McLean can get another spirit, that is something that really would favor him because just every turn he could convert a card into a 2/2.
Yeah.
I guess it's not every turn with the because another spirit comes into play. So yeah.
But don't forget at some point, Mike could just say, "I tap my mana and I win."
Yeah.
I mean that's a thing his deck does. I don't want the game to go long because at a certain point he just throws his hand on the table and says GG.
Yeah. I mean, after sideboard, there should be more cards that McLean does have to interact with the combo, either removal spells or a card like Coffin Purge. But yeah, you're certainly on your edge if you're McLean because Mike's deck is super powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, Rich, basic land choice is super strong here. Actually, just the decks in general are really good looking in this matchup.
Yeah, it's one of the cool things about Premodern is like when people have decks and they know it's going to stay relatively the same, like they're not going to invest in new cards. They don't need to invest in new cards, that they find ways to, whether it's certain arts or getting altars.
Yep.
All right, so right now Mike is resolving an intuition. So that was a card that we thought had the potential of getting cut. I guess, I mean, by default, I think you're getting some number of squeeze, but you're not really able to convert that into, like, leverage that into anything. Is there, I mean, I guess Cabal Therapy is the other card, but like, I don't know. Cabal Therapy doesn't seem super exciting here. I'm trying to think what you do in an intuition for value. Okay, get 3 survivals.
Get 3 survivals and
it's not value. 1. It's just a demonic tutor. All right.
And
yeah, I guess, I mean, like, once it's in play for McLean, I guess Dystopia is a possibility that could come down. But I think even if that came down,
he's still got a wall to sack.
Yeah, it would be too slow.
He can get any number of 1-drops.
All right, so we see there is a shapeshifter in hand and an unearth.
Yep.
I feel like this is close to being something that you should be able to win.
Just about. I mean, play it out and tell him what do you got? Because I've got 2 green mana.
I guess you have to first commit the 2 mana for the survival that you might not. Yeah, I guess if you had
black,
so extra mana and a creature, then you could maybe go.
I feel like you pass turn and you start setting up on his turn, and you can set up sort of in response to anything he does.
Okay.
To protect your cards. I feel like once Mike gets the turn back, we see it.
Though any removal spell like Smother or Diabolic Edict, I feel like would disrupt game plan. I'm trying to think if there's a way to play around those.
Oh, so second wall.
Okay.
So now he's essentially coming out mana positive aside, or mana even aside from a tick on the wall.
Yeah. We'll discard the Shapeshifter. You getting Squee here, or is there something else you're getting? Okay,
You
getting
get
Squee.
Squee because it's safe from discard. Okay,
Oh, there is a Tainted Pact.
so he did not get rid of Tainted Pact. Find my answer, please.
Mistress Factory. I think you keep going.
Yep. Say no to that.
The Ball Therapy.
Doesn't feel great here. I mean, it stops his unearth.
Yeah, that might be okay. I mean, but still, I don't think
Again, he could go get another one though, or
yeah,
he can go get
he has blue
just play it. Yeah,
he has blue with Yavimaya Coast and Reflecting Pool. I don't know if Unearth is needed, especially if you give.
He could just play it out, and he's still got 2 green. Unearth works around contamination. The 2 green mana sources on the board work around contamination. I don't think he's fretting over contamination at this point. Contamination is not a game winner here. Yeah, he just unearths the shifter and uses his 2 green and wins.
I think Wasteland removal spells, Often Purge are all better than these cards.
He can't do it with.
The problem is like even like the cards that I talked about that are like super reactive, like the Wastelands or the removal spells, like that can disrupt the combo, but like you're not killing Mike from this board position anytime soon either. So like Mike has the luxury of just kind of taking it slow.
I'm with Raphael. I don't see it being scary.
They perish.
That's better here. Well,
I think it's worth taking. I mean, like I don't. That's probably.
No, it still doesn't do it. He still just goes unearth GG.
Well, he wouldn't have black mana. He doesn't have black mana right now. He has Reflecting Pool and Yavimaya Coast and Forest.
True. Okay. Yep. I missed that.
So Perish was the card that McLean settled with.
Yep. Because now you can't hard cast and double survival. So you'll double survival right now.
Discard Squee. Go get Squee. Discard Squee. Go get Birds of Paradise.
Yeah. Tell him, now answer this in a turn. I think it's just the other Squee comical flop.
Yeah, I mean, because any other creature, you're not really gaining advantage. I guess.
I mean,
I don't know. I guess like a card like Psychotog, I guess, could have value being in your graveyard.
So, the Palinchron now. So you You unearth the shifter, and it becomes a Palinchron.
Okay.
Get your lands back, and you've got it. Oh, but he's got to get black mana to do that. But he's got the
No, he can.
no. He's got the one he can hard cast.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He's got it. There it is.
Yeah, I think this will be a similar sequence to the first game.
With the green floating.
As long as there's not like a snuff out.
Yeah, man. It's hard to play around, especially when you've got, a guy who knows it better than anybody.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say better, as good as anybody. I don't want to take anything away from the other talented Fed players in the group.
All right. So yep, similar sequence. So the shapeshifter was a Palinchron, it untaps the lands.
Yep.
He had a mana floating. He's gonna discard Squee to go get Devour. Then he's gonna discard Devour to go get Triskelion, and then we're gonna start activating. And McLean
no!
flipped the top card of his deck, and it was a Coffin Purge.
Oh, you should have kept going with the Tainted Pact. Oh no!
All right, so Mike Harris takes down the match 2-0. Let's jump down to chat with our players. And if chat, if you guys have any questions for our players, feel free to type it in and we can try and ask them. But we will find the scene. Here we go.
How do I minimize? There we go.
Howdy, guys. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Hello, gents.
How's it feel, McLean? Sorry. I had to.
He's not used to it.
That was rude.
I know.
I apologize.
I just needed one.
Did you see when he turned over the next card of his library?
I did. That was brutal.
Ugh.
And he thought for so long and hard about continuing going with that Tainted Pact too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah, McLean, we were looking at your sideboard, and there were a lot of appealing options. So could you walk us through your thought process of how you sideboarded?
Yeah, let's see. What did I bring in? I brought in Edict. The Parish, I only brought in one. I don't think it's great. Dystopia's 2 Coffin Purge and a Snuff Out.
Okay.
I was definitely considering Null Rods because he would have to kill him to get around it, but it doesn't. It's kind of like an Engineered Plague where it wouldn't really do anything to stop like his value or like to help me win. It would just prevent him from winning.
Yeah.
Make him answer it.
Yeah, so let's see. This is what I took out. Contagion also really is only good against the birds, I think. And Reanimate. Maybe if it was instant.
So I was looking at that Reanimate in the deck list, and I guess I guess I don't quite understand its role. Do you have you played enough with this deck?
Yeah, so it's pretty good generally. Basically, when you get the lock or basically to close out a game, you often want a little quicker clock, and so it kind of serves a role as additional zombie infestations in a way where you're just able to reanimate something from your opponent's graveyard just to close the game out. And it also serves the purpose of being able to save one of your own nether spirits if you get 2 trapped.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a self like a coffin purge can do the same thing, or scrying. And yeah, it's good against Terravor, Exalted Angel, Eternal Angel. Yeah, I've done it like against goblins, like Siege Gang. A lot of times you're Cabal therapying early or unmasking early, and then that coupled with all the removal, it just
I'm the reanimator deck now.
But yeah, here I don't think it's great just because Feb doesn't have that many impactful creatures. Like I had a chance that first game to use it, but
So like take a shapeshifter.
They're only impactful when you're combining them with many other creatures.
Yeah. We thought of just the denial aspect of like, yoink. Guess you won't be unearthing that.
If only it were instant speed.
Yeah,
I know, if it's
I
instant
honestly,
speed,
I thought you might reanimate my bird just to ramp yourself.
Yeah, I was considering it, but I was hoping, to try to force you to get in a position where you had to discard something relevant, or if I could discard a second Volrath, and then something like that. But yeah, I was a bit scared about this matchup because of if he can resolve a survival, it's pretty hard for me, especially game 1. Game 2, I just mulling the 5, and then
that
I
was
made
rough.
that mistake with the Tainted Pack. So
can you talk about the handy that you mulliganed? Are you looking for something particular? And then when you did keep, like, what was the debate that the cards that you put on the bottom? Because it was really interesting how you played out that initial first few turns. So
yeah, the first hand had 0 lands, and the second hand had 1 port, and then the third hand had 2 wastelands or 1 wasteland and 2 Mishras.
Okay.
So I didn't want to keep the third hand, but I couldn't mull that.
How bad could it?
5.
Yeah.
So I think I kept Unmask and Nether Spirit.
Okay.
Unmask and Zombie Infestation, I think.
Do you remember what you put on the bottom?
So it would have been a good hand with either a black source or 7 cards, because I had Zombie Infestation and Nether Spirit, Unmask, and Diabolic Edict. Okay. And then 3 lands. So
you put Edict and then
I put
Zombie Infestation.
Or not Edict. It was Smother, I think. Okay. It was a removal. So I didn't see any Cabal Therapies or Duresses in any of the hands. So that was
basically the 2 cards you want to see. You got 8 of them, right? Plus an Unmask. So I was curious, because I've never actually looked at this deck list very thoroughly until preparing for this match. Is there a Zombie Infestation engine of any sort?
Usually it's similar to, it's just like a kind of a value thing where you're either discarding a Nether Spirit or
Cabal Therapy, I guess.
Yeah, Cabal Therapy, Coffin Purge, to just cards that you don't need anymore, because it can kind of has a 2, or it has the game plan depends on your opponent and how the games are going, but you can start a pretty quick clock if you go turn 2 Zombie Infestation, discarding Spirit and a random card. Now you're attacking for 4 turn 3, and with the Mishras or with Denial, you can kind of go aggro, or just against counter spells, against once you have a contamination in play, it just lets you finish the game off quickly before they can get out of it. But yeah, there's no squeeze or things like that.
Right.
So you're just kind of getting virtual card advantage with Spirit, and
I guess it just...
scrying, there's a little synergy there with Skeletal Scrying, and
it just feels so bad for your opponent if they kill a zombie token.
Yeah.
Do I really want to waste my card on this? He's just gonna make another. Yeah, so I totally thought that we were gonna be on the Feb mirror.
I know.
And so going into this, I was kind of like, all right, I'm looking for Cabal therapy and I'm gonna name Hermit Druid. Like that was my whole game plan because I felt that the blue-white Stifle Knot was just such a dog if he did play Contamination, whereas Feb is not a huge dog to Hermit Feb. Obviously, Hermit Feb is faster if it's got the Hermit plan, but if it doesn't, then you're just playing a mirror match.
Mhm.
So I kind of I pushed for the Feb.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt similar where it's like Hermit Feb. I was hoping you were playing Stifle Knot, but yeah, the Hermit Feb against Stifle Knot is just kind of such a dreary matchup.
Yeah, it is not fun.
I'm like wondering. I haven't tested recently, but like I built it a little more geared towards Stifle Knot with the Xantid and Meddling Mage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of scared of that matchup. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I was like, well, maybe if I meta it, then we could have a Feb beer, and I would be a little favored.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of figured that like Xantid is one of the best cards at dealing with the Dreadnought matchup, and it still doesn't make it like a good matchup. Like it's still super hard. So
Yeah.
I just cut them completely from this. It was like if I face Dreadnought and want to play Feb, then I'll just ban the Dreadnought deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said
Yeah.
that's the absolute worst matchup possible, right?
I think so,
You
just
used to
because
think
it's
Sly, but
I used to think, yeah, exactly. It was Sly for the longest time, but I actually think that Dreadnought actually is. Oh yeah, you guys were commentating that time I got destroyed in the Fall Brawl. It was the 2022 Fall Brawl against Chris Budesheim when Mono Blue Dreadnought kind of premiered, and he easily 3-0'd me. And it was also when I was premiering Hermit Feb. It was the first like big event that Hermit Feb finished. It was just like, well, that's not how this is supposed to go for
no,
our heroes.
I remember actually it was kind of the talk of LobsterCon shortly after that. The conversation that happened in the Cabal. It's like, no, we used to think it was this deck. Turns out,
Yeah. So
it's this other
Sly,
deck.
we figured some sideboarding plans to at least make it, it's still not an auto win, but it at least
You
shores it up.
sideboard out the hermits and you sideboard in basic lands.
Precisely. How could you go wrong? But yeah, with Dreadnought, it just feels like, I mean, we've gotten to the point where we're boarding in like 9-10 cards for the Dreadnought matchup.
Yeah,
And it's like
rough.
they're all good, but it doesn't make it so that it's a favored matchup in any way, shape, or form. It just makes it so that you can tread water a little bit more.
Yeah.
But also, to its credit, I was playing Mono Blue Dreadnought at the LobsterCon side event and lost to Hermit Feb Cabal member Bryn Pitt
Nice.
on Hermit Feb. So, it does happen. It's not
Very
impossible. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Were there any questions from the chat?
They were just asking about McLean's sideboarding, but
Mm.
I'm just looking back to see if there's anything beyond that. A lot of people are talking about.
I considered taking out Contamination.
Okay.
Just because, like, even that game, when if I would have found Contamination, I could have like started the lock, but he had outs just with Unearth and already having green mana. So he could have won even if I landed a Contamination there with
That's exactly what we were thinking about.
just the 2 walls and the Unearth on the Shapeshifter. So I was basically needed 2 cards. But yeah, the Purge would have definitely prolonged the game a bit.
Yeah, I kind of figured Contamination even though it's what I named with Cabal Therapy right off the bat, like, and it was good there. It's not that worrisome.
Yeah,
To
we
me.
thought you might ditch the plan entirely. Just go control.
Yeah, I was gonna do that if I won this second game, because I think on the play you can have you can establish it quick enough where you basically get under him and just have
Yep.
enough removal, and then that's usually enough where you can just with some zombies just finish him out and disrupting his mana. So yeah, I was planning on bringing the null rods in game 3 and
Sure.
just basically all the removal and kind of trying to play a really long game.
So you didn't bring them in for that game, the null rods?
I didn't. Yeah. I thought if I was, I don't know, like they do slow you down, but they wouldn't disrupt like what you're doing until the actual win.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was really toying in my head of how big of a threat null rod was going to be. So I brought in the 2 naturalizes, and I really hemmed and hawed over taking out the orangutan just for the null rods. Like, I think that's the only artifact in your deck.
Yep.
You're not activating factory on my turn. So I kind of figured, like, okay, I think I just have to kind of hope that I draw a naturalize, because it's not worth it to have this mostly dead card that you might not see, A, and B, even if you do, like, I can probably still find some cheeky way. Like, if I get a survival out, I can still go like a control plan and just use my creatures for more utility rather than just auto winning. I could just get a nice 4/5 flyer, and win that way. So I kind of figured, like, maybe the null rod's not that big of a concern, but naturalize is obviously coming in since enchantments are your deck's main game plan.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to know I made the right decision. I also brought in the Withered Wretch, like, not thinking it would be a huge deal. I mean, sure, it hits the Nether Spirit, and that could be huge, but more thinking, like, here's something I can cast if he has Contamination out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad plan. I also kept the Spirit Guides in, which normally I feel like I'd take them out, but I kept them in just because if I needed to cast a bird just to get some non-black mana or something like that.
Yeah. Did you have any more questions, Aaron, for our players?
No, I think that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll let you guys go then, and
all right,
we'll get things set up for our last match, which I know I saw a comment that like, I can't wait for the Lanny versus Flores match, and we're kicking off
getting
week
that
1.
first week.
Yep,
awesome.
Yep. So yeah, so sit tight, everyone. We're going to take a quick break as we get things set up for our last match. But yeah, it'll be Lanny against Flores, so don't go anywhere. Right. Not one you want to miss. So
yes, I will be watching. All right, thanks so much for having us. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch, guys. Thank you.
Later.
All right, good games.
All right, we will be right back as we get set up. So don't go anywhere. Hopefully just a few minutes. Sit tight.